What is up, IDP Army? It's your man, Jordan Rains at 50 Shades of Drunk. Back again. It is week 15, and this is the IDP Army podcast. No longer going by Defense Matters. Same secondary line, though. The IDP Army podcast, mostly IDP, all fantasy football. We're embracing the brand. We're embracing the community, the IDP Army podcast. This is for you guys. This is for us to, take over the IDP game and move things forward. Happy to be here with you. It's week 15. It's been a crazy season for sure. Only my second season being in the content creation side of things. Definitely went a lot smoother than last year, a lot more productive, I would say, as far as keeping things rolling. But yeah, I'm here to give you guys, I know it's a little late this week, but as less and less people are, in the runnings, I guess. I've been answering more questions on Twitter and through DMs and a little bit less, through the shows and stuff. It's a little, since the rankings aren't necessarily a big part of it, the last couple of weeks I've just been doing start sit questions. That's basically what I'm gonna do today. So yeah, happy to be here. Leave us, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. If you're on the YouTube, make sure you subscribe. Steve and I are doing some things to try to bring some more people onto the shows and stuff this off season. We have some big plans coming for you guys. Always check out my work at dynastynerds.com. That's where I do most of my writing. Had a good talk with the IDP department last night. We got a lot of cool things coming, guys, like guys and gals. I can't really stress that enough. Dynasty Nerds has it's going to be a crazy good off season for all people that play Dynasty Fantasy Football. So I'm definitely proud to be a part of that team over there. And yeah, check out my written work over there. I'll have some stuff up there very soon. We're going to be doing some, IDP profiles, some rookie profiles. We're going to be breaking down this season. Only one more week, it's week 16, fantasy playoffs. We're having them right now. Hopefully you're still with me. And I'm going to help you guys make those sit decisions. This is that big week. It's going to be a lot of play. I don't want to say start your studs, but you have to, stick with the guys who got you here. That's how I'm playing. That's, when I've tried to pivot, when I've tried to get cute, when you tinker around, that's when you usually hurt yourself. If you're still here, you've probably stayed true to the course. You're probably looking for me to tell you what you already know. So I will be here to do that. Happy to do that, in fact. Yeah, so we'll go through the top scores of last week. Obviously, we had a massive game from Chase Young this last week. His first really big game of the season, as far as like an overall breakout type situation. 2 solos only, but a tackle for a loss, a sack, quarterback hit, a PD, a fumble recovery, a forced fumble, and a touchdown. I mean, he basically scored in every way you could except for a safety. That amounted to 40.7 points. Hassan Reddick had a massive game. This is the biggest IDP 1-2-3 scoring game I've ever seen today. I need to go back and look through the history, maybe through some years, but ended up being 59 points. He had 5 solos, 2 tackles for a loss, 5 sacks, 6 quarterback hits, and 3 forced fumbles. He's playing Danny Dimes. We all know he likes to put the ball on the ground. So, the odds were in his favor, but he went off. Big game. I know the Dynasty Nerds channel, or the Dynasty Nerds YouTube or Twitter stream. We put out a little clip of him showing all of his sacks and forced fumbles from that game. It's pretty cool. Apparently that was a Cardinals franchise record, which is a pretty big deal. You got a guy like Chandler Jones there doing some work for you. And then we had that was the linebacker of the week. And then the defensive back of the week was Cameron Curl, also on the same team as Chase Young. Big game for him. He scored 40.6. So Chase Young, 40.7, Cameron Curl, 40.6, 7 solos, 1 quarterback hit, 2 PDs, 1 interception return yard, 76 yards. The interception, and then he got a touchdown. So that was a big game for Cameron Curl. Got a lot of Cameron Curl questions this week. Definitely very high on him. He's got a steady floor. We saw that he does have the ability to pop this last week. So I will be, saying you should probably be starting him in a lot of cases this upcoming week, especially after the big game last week. He's filled in really well for Landon Collins. And, Landon Collins, we don't know what his future really is. So he's definitely a guy, even if you picked him up, don't just flippantly drop him or anything silly like that, especially as we're towards the end of the year. You probably want to stash him on the end of your bench. In Dynasty, his value's only really probably going to go up from here, especially if he can keep the consistent level of play. And again, assuming Landon Collins from the Achilles injury, we don't know what his future is going to be like. He's getting a little up there in age. So that was the top scores of the week. As always, go follow me on Twitter at 50 Shades of Drunk. Guys, we have a Patreon, Steve and I do. We just set it up. Patreon.com/the IDP Army. If you want to go support us a little bit, help us. We pay for the hosting on the site. If any of you use our site, it doesn't have a lot on there, but I do get a lot of questions and emails on there, which we try to answer on this show. Steve and I try to filter through those, and that costs money. StreamYard costs money, so we invest a lot into this community, and we hope you guys really do appreciate it. And there's an opportunity for you guys to give back. Besides, like I said, the likes and the shares and all that, which we do love you guys, and we appreciate anything and everything you do for us. So. All right, let's talk about some player news and injuries. We did have some people get banged up this last week. Darius Leonard, he seems to always he gets nicked up all the time, it seems like. Back injury, left in the fourth quarter. I think he's supposed to be fine. I haven't seen anything about him being out. But this is something that just seems to keep happening with him. I'm not, he just has gotten nicked up. Jamal Adams has the same kind of issue. They play hard, so they put themselves in situations to, get a little out of whack. So something to monitor. Fred Warner left last week's game with a shoulder and neck injury, didn't return. We don't know if he's going to play or not still. As far as today, from what I saw, he's still just questionable. I will double and triple check that. Yeah, he's still questionable. If he can't go, Al-Shazir Aziz is the guy who's going to be filling in for him. I'm not trying to start him necessarily, but if you have to, man, you have to. And if Fred Warner's not going to play, he should see meaningful snaps. So you could play him if you needed to. Jonathan Allen, defensive line for the Washington football team, left the game with a groin injury. Didn't come back. Tim Settle may be the next man up. As far as I know, he is also still just questionable. So monitor that. He hasn't had a prolific a season or as good a season as he had last year, but with Sweat and Chase Young really kind of coming on strong, there's a little less to be had for those big guys in the middle. Justin Reed, this is kind of a tough one. Was enjoying a pretty good season this year, but he hurt his hand, left the game, and apparently had surgery this last week, apparently like Monday or Tuesday, and he's done for the season. So Eric Murray is the guy they said was supposed to be filling in, playable, but he's not somebody I'm necessarily targeting. I did have some questions for him, and I'm in a situation where I have been able to avoid having to go pick him up and play him. I've got other guys. I hope that you guys and gals are in that situation as well. But if you're not and you have to play Eric Murray, you can. I'm not saying you should. You can. It could work out. Couldn't. Who knows? Josh Jones, defensive back for Jacksonville. He's been playing. When he can play, he's been good. He's been getting nicked up a lot this year too. Left with a shoulder injury, and he didn't come back into the game. Eric Kendricks was the last second scratch. Todd Davis filled in for him. 11 tackles as a spot starter. You could play Todd Davis if you needed to this week, but it's playoff weeks. I personally would be very scared to just put somebody into my lineup in the first round of the playoffs who hasn't done anything to contribute to my team. I know in theory it should all be fine. That would be frightening to me. You can do it. I'm avoiding that anywhere and everywhere I can. You could do it. Maybe like linebacker 3. He could put up linebacker 2, even linebacker 1 numbers. But again, it's just he didn't get me here. He doesn't owe me anything. I don't owe him anything. I don't have to play him. You don't have to play Todd Davis. You can if you want to. Forrest Buckner did not practice Friday. This is not good. I would honestly be surprised if he plays tomorrow. It's unfortunate. He's having an all-pro year. I mean, he's an all-pro basically every year. He's an amazing player. And I'm interested to see how this defense fares without him. I think they had one game without him earlier this year as well. So Joey Bosa Thursday night had a bad game, terrible game actually. But from what I was reading, apparently he may or may not have been evaluated for concussion. They didn't say if he had one or not. From what I was looking at, so I mean this week's already over. You played him. He's Joey Bosa. It was Thursday night. You played him, and I'm sorry. I did too. It hurts. Hopefully you play Josh Allen as your quarterback and you're doing all right. Carlos Dunlop is out versus the Jets this week. That sucks. He had one of the better playoff defensive line schedules through the postseason, and he hurt his foot, and he did not play last week. He is not playing this week, and that's when you need him. So it's unfortunate, but he's not going to be out there. So there's not really much we can do about that. So other notes, I kind of wanted to just things I wanted to harp on here quickly. Not many, but Roquan Smith right now has the second most tackles for loss in the league, which I think is interesting. TJ Watt has 21. Roquan Smith has 17. Behind him is Aaron Donald with 15.5, and then Zadarius Smith, Joey Bosa, and Vince Williams all have 14.5 right behind him. So interesting that a middle linebacker and not somebody that's playing, on the line of scrimmage, because everybody after him for a while. I mean, you have to go all the way down to 15 to find a guy who's 15 to find a guy who is the next middle or inside linebacker at Devin White. Everybody else is on the line of scrimmage: J.J. Watt, Khalil Mack, Montez Sweat, Hassan Reddick, Brandon Graham. So he's the player that he was drafted to be. He was a first-round pick that year that Darius Leonard really broke out. I know he was the first running linebacker taken in that class, and we knew he could put up prolific numbers, and he has put up prolific numbers this year. I believe right now I have him as my linebacker 2 in Dynasty on Dynasty Nerds. Yeah, I mean he's awesome. He's basically he should be valued in a very similar as similarly to Darius Leonard, if not equally to Darius Leonard at this point. So if you have him, enjoy it. It's going well for you. And then the last little note, I know I've harped on this before, but Marlon Humphreys had another multi-forced fumble game. He right now has 8 forced fumbles. The guy in second place, Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett. But this is what's crazy about that. They've had 4 forced fumbles since like week 6. They haven't forced another fumble since then. I think week 6 or 7 is when Marlon Humphrey, he was ahead of him, and he's forced 4 more. So it's kind of crazy that nobody else in the league is really forcing a lot of fumbles right now. And then guys that were kind of on pace to, maybe be leaders, they're defensive line players, you'd think. They don't. They have 4. They haven't had one in a long time. Marlon Humphrey had another 2 forced fumble game. He's probably getting an all-pro nod this season, I imagine. Funny, Marcus Peters is also tied at number 2 with 4 forced fumbles. So there's 2 defensive backs, not just DBs, cornerbacks from the Baltimore Ravens that are in the top 2 at forced fumbles. So man, that defense is something. I will say that. All right. So that's all my kind of notes for the day. Just kind of things I had noticed this last week. I'm going to answer some of your start-sit questions that I did get in on the Twitter's verse from everybody. I've been getting a lot. I will say that it's humbling and frightening that so many of you want my opinion on who to start. But I'm happy to give it, and I'm happy to help you guys out as best I can. Just tell you what I would do. I hope we all go out and win. Your league starts at the draft. Hopefully you got the right guys on your team. Hopefully you're in a spot where you are. Some of these folks that ask me questions are in good spots. They're asking, who do I start? And they're mentioning 2 and 3 studs. And I'm like, yes, like that makes me happy. Like that's a good problem to have. So help you all sort through some of those. And then I'll get y'all out of here and let you go do your thing on this Saturday night. We got another game coming on here in a little bit. This Bills game is almost over. Josh Allen is the MVP. And that's coming from somebody who's a Chiefs fan. So and you can miss me with that Aaron Rodgers bullshit. All right. So we'll go ahead and start with the Twitter questions first. So first question, or I'm just going to go in reverse order that I got them, but I got from what at Mr. Grayman said, defensive line question, Justin Houston or Sam Hubbard? He said, who would you start? I said I would start in that situation. I'm starting Sam Hubbard. Hubbard has only got 1 sack on the season, which is gross and disgusting, and I hate it. But he has the highest and safest tackle floor of any defensive line player. He and Cameron Hayward led the league at defensive line last year in tackles. He had a 6 tackle game this last week, a 10 tackle game the week before that, a 7 tackle game the week before that. His floor is high. His snaps are high too. He's playing around 55, 60 snaps a game. Justin Houston's only playing around 45. Sometimes he's even in the low 30s, and his tackle floor is like 1 or 0. So that's some really, really scary stuff. I know he could pop for a monster game, but he can also literally put up nothing. I'm playing Sam Hubbard this week. That is a safe option, my man. So this one came in from Bones to Gus. Schobert or Hewitt? I said Joe Show here. They're very close in scoring on the season. Joe Schobert has, let me see here. Joe Schobert has 238 points, and he's the linebacker 8. Neville Hewitt has 227.7. He's a linebacker 12. They both have pretty half-decent matchups this week. I don't really stress the matchups as much. I'm taking the talent. I'm taking the guy who got paid. All-Pro Joe. Go with Joe Show. No shade on Neville Hewitt. I do love Neville Hewitt. This is a great problem to have. I'm going to play Joe Schobert here. Next question was from P_Olson. Says Jordan Hicks or Foye Olakun. All right, there's a lot of Olakun questions, and the answer to most of them is Olakun. This one, the answer was Olakun, but it's really close on this one. I have Olakun at 13 this week. Jordan Hicks is at 15. Jordan Hicks does get Philly, but the quarterback situation is weird, so I don't really know what to make of it or think of it. Oh, man, Devin Singletary just took that bad boy to the house. His house. Motor. All right. But I'm taking Olakun there against Tampa Bay. They can move the ball. They keep the drives going. I know what I'm going to get with Tampa Bay's offense, and I like that for the defensive players. On Atlanta, also Atlanta this week does not have Julio Jones, which means Matt Ryan is going to be stalling out a lot, which means Olakun will have a lot of opportunities to do what he do, and that's get points. So this one comes in from Fantasy Yisso. It says pick 2 linebackers this week. Alex Singleton, Hassan Reddick, Anthony Walker, or Matt Judon. So I said initially that I would go Walker and Singleton. And that's because I'm going to go with the floor. I know Hassan Reddick had a massive game this last week, but after I really thought about it, I think I would play Singleton and Reddick. Reddick gets, I know I've been talk crap on smash spots all season, especially against Philly, because it seems like every time you get a smash spot against Philly and you play a guy, he doesn't do anything. Hassan Reddick could do nothing, but he just had a 5-sack game against a scrub, you know what I mean? A scrub NFC East quarterback. Now he gets another one. So, my man, on Twitter, I told you to play Singleton and Walker, but I'm going to change my mind. Just a few short hours later, my mind has changed. I hope you hear this. I'm going Singleton and Hassan Reddick, my man. Okay, let's see here. This one came in from at FFSlayer8. He said, Terrell Adams or Foye Olakun this week. Thanks. Again, I said, give me Olakun. And then he shot back. And then I had somebody subtweet him and say, Olakun or Hewitt. Olakun or Hewitt. And I said, still give me Olakun. Again, Matt Ryan doesn't have his favorite weapon. These drives I just feel like they're going to stall out. I feel like Olakun, Olakun could get 15 tackles this week. I mean, he could literally do that this week. So I'm very interested in Olakun this week. I'm very high on him. He's my linebacker 13. Could probably put him even higher. So this one came in from at WalksFF. He says Jordan Poyer or Jeremy Chin. So obviously I'm assuming this is on Sleeper where it could also be on MFL where Jeremy Chin is DB eligible, but he should be DB eligible ever. I know on NFL they changed him just to linebacker like 3 or 4 weeks in the season, which was so Bush League. But anyway, that's besides the point. I said give me Chin. There's no shade on Poyer. Obviously, this game's already happening, so I don't know who he went with. But I said give me Chin. These are Chin's numbers over the last 3 weeks. 27 bye, but then you have 46.5. 6-point game the week before that. Okay, I understand that. But he had another kind of quiet game before that. But then he had 20, a 15, and a 22-point game. So his floor is generally very high, and his ceiling is super high. Poyer has had a little bit more of a steady kind of production. His biggest pop game so far this season is 27. So I went with Chin on that one. Again, he's playing the linebacker snaps truly. He gets Green Bay. They're going to move the ball. They're going to drive down the field constantly. Jeremy Chin he's campaigning to be Defensive Rookie of the Year, which a general aside, I need to say this quickly, which I was going to say it sooner. Let's talk about Defensive Rookie of the Year. They're going to try to give it to Chase Young, and I understand why. He played at Ohio State, and has really great draft capital, and he's really good. But Jeremy Chin, small school guy, came in as an immediate starter, has played basically all the snaps, as a linebacker, out of position, truly, from what he came into the league to do. And he's been super successful at it. He's been everything that we all thought Isaiah Simmons would be. He's got over 100 tackles now. 95 tackles. 95 tackles. He's got a sack. He's got multiple touchdowns. Okay. Chase Young didn't do anything all season until last week. Now, he did have a monster game and he did have a touchdown. I get that. But let's look at Chase Young. And I want to bring up, I think Jeremy Chin deserves it. That's where I'm going to go to. I think they're going to try to get Chase Young. He's only got 4.5 sacks on the season. I'm sorry. I know we have this week and next week, 2 more weeks to do something. But he's only got 4.5 sacks on the season. You're supposed to be a generational pass rusher. I mean, guys like Bradley Chubb had a dozen their first year. We had Josh Allen. What did he get? 10.5 last year. 10. Max Crosby had like 10 last year. Nick Bosa had 9. Like, if you're gonna get defensive rookie of the year at defensive lineman, you need to do some numbers. I'm sorry. I mean, it's a numbers game to a degree. And speaking of that, I want to speak to Montez Sweat. And I'm going to tell you this right now, and I'm going to talk about him all off season as Dynasty buy. Go get Montez Sweat. He will never, ever, ever be valued properly. He'll never be looked at properly in the NFL because he will always be the guy that's playing across from Chase Young. If he has a great game, if he blows everyone's socks off, what they're going to say, it's because Chase Young's eating up double and triple coverage. Montez Sweat's got it so easy. If he doesn't do numbers, what's it going to be? Well, it's because he's not very good and Chase Young's better than him. He can't win. If he gets 15, 16, 17 sacks, he won't get the credit for it. It's always going to be about Chase Young. I think at the end of their careers, when they do part ways at some point, because they're probably not both going to play there their whole career, when they leave that organization, there's a very good chance that Chase Young will not have as good of numbers as Montez Sweat if you go game by game by game. You can even look at that right now. Montez Sweat just produces more. He's playing less snaps than Chase Young too, but they're always going to give Chase Young the credit because he's got the draft capital. He played at Ohio State. And I mean, he's got it. He's got the it factor. Montez Sweat doesn't have that it factor to him. He's not, like the camera's never focusing in on Montez Sweat. They're never talking about Montez Sweat. So I just want to say this right now. For fantasy football and probably for real football, don't sleep on Montez Sweat. He will never get the credit he ever deserves because he will always be playing across the line from Chase Young. So go buy him right now in Dynasty if you don't already have him. And if you have him, you should sell him to me for next to nothing. So that was an aside. I meant to mention all that earlier. So we'll get back to the Q's and the A's here. So I have one from at Mark Ronaldo. He said, cornerback start, Bless Austin or Kendall Fuller, and IDP flex start, Harvey Lange or Kari Willis. Love your IDP works, pods, and articles. Thanks. Appreciate that, man. I said go Fuller, and I said go Willis. Willis popped this last week. I know he's had kind of a little bit of a downish kind of year, but he's been really pretty solid. Lange, again, he's one of these guys where it took a trade, and it's taken a lot of stuff for him to get onto the field. It's the playoffs. I don't want to put Harvey Lange into my lineup. I just don't. I'm not going to tell anybody to do that. So that's where I went with that one. Here was another one I had. This one was from at B2Twice415. He said semifinals matchup this weekend. Sweat or Ogba. I've got Sweat in there now. He's been on a heater lately or recently. I said Sweat for me. I know Ogba's been doing well, but you just heard my rant about Montez Sweat. I stand by that. He is, if you're on Dynasty Nerds, I think Montez Sweat's my number 5 or 6 overall defensive lineman. He's right behind Chase Young. And it's only because I'm not so deep in my contrarian take that I'm going to put him ahead of him quite yet. But I do believe that he does have the potential and probably will actually be a better asset in Dynasty, or has the potential to be a better asset in Dynasty. They're not as far away as I think a lot of people think. Another one here came in at Hector90 said, quick question, Jabril Peppers or Minka? I'm the underdog since I started Keenan Allen. Now, I can understand the appeal of wanting to start Minka as an underdog. You're like, oh, and that's what people say when they talk about Minka is, oh, he's the home run hitter. And, he's the guy you want to play if you want a boom or bust. I say play Jabril Peppers because he's going to boom or boom. These are Jabril Peppers' numbers since week 5. or from week 6 on. 10 points, 20 points, 20.4, 26-10, 26-1, 28-6, 25-7, bye week 17.8, 23, and 28. He's basically averaging 25 points a game since week 7. Minka Fitzpatrick, bless his heart, love him. Love Minka Fitzpatrick. His biggest game in the season is 29 points. That was the one where he had multiple interceptions. Jabril Peppers is putting up 25 points, and he's not having to get multiple interceptions to get there. That's Jabril Peppers, my man, by a landslide. And Jabril Peppers is a top 5 dynasty asset, and he's honestly he's up there. Top 5 IDP defensive back asset, and he probably should be considered a top 10 defensive back or IDP asset to some degree, just because of the positional scarcity at defensive back and the fact that he is putting up some prolific numbers right now. He's one of those guys where I haven't heard a lot of people really talk him up or even talk about him besides myself in the IDP kind of community. But when the offseason's over and everybody's playing with the numbers, he's going to get talked about a lot. Here was another one from Adam Valentino 83. He said, Williamson or Hewitt? I enjoy listening to the pod. Thumbs up. Thanks. Appreciate it. Y'all, I know a lot of people watch on YouTube. Why you want to look at my ugly mug is beyond me, but I appreciate it. We have a lot of people listening on the podcast as well. So if you're in that spot or on YouTube, we love you. And like I said, the podcast was renamed today. We're going all in on the IDP Army, boys and girls. Let's go. All right. So I have one here from @YourSportsHero. He says, pick 2. Jabril Peppers, Eric Murray, Malcolm Jenkins, Corey Willis. And then he mentions the scoring 1 point per tackle, an assist, 7 points per sack, 12 for interceptions, and 5 for forced fumbles. My opponent has Bates and Chen. So that's scary coming up against Bates and Chen in the playoffs. I definitely understand why you would want to put the right guys across from them. Like I just said about Jabril Peppers, he's 100% locked into your lineup, and I'd play Corey Willis across from him. I know Malcolm Jenkins has been pretty good, but I don't really like Malcolm Jenkins that much, and I don't want him in my lineup. I like Corey Willis. I want him in my lineup. I know maybe that's not, super elite analysis, but it's finals week. I'm not going to sit there and stare at Malcolm Jenkins, who I am not a fan of, I like him as a person, and I like what he does as far as his social stuff. That's amazing. I love that. But Malcolm Jenkins, the player, just not really a big Malcolm Jenkins fan. I'm not a Saints fan. If you watched or listened to me, you know that too. So I don't want him in my lineup semifinals week. All right. I'm going to be big mad if things don't go right with him in my lineup. I could sleep, not well, but I could sleep with Corey Willis let me down. I would just be staring at the ceiling all night if Malcolm Jenkins let me down. I lost because of it. So that's what I told my man @YourSportsHero to do. I said Peppers and Willis for those 2. Oh, man, I answered a lot of questions on Twitter the past couple of days. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, here was another one from Your Sports Hero. I'm going to do this one. I'm going to do 2 more. I have some questions over here I see in the chat. I'm going to pop in there, take a look at those, and then I'm going to get y'all out of here. So this one, like I said, Your Sports Hero, he said, sit 2. So you got Jalen Smith, Roquan Smith, Demario Davis, Alex Singleton, Neville Hewitt, and Zach Cunningham. Thanks. Same as before, 1 point per tackle and assist, 7 for a sack, and 2 per interception. Thanks. So I said in this scoring, because it's not IDP 1, 2, 3, a little different, a little bit more inflated for those big plays and a little bit more suppressed on the tackle side. I said I'd sit Cunningham and Hewitt. Sitting Cunningham because the sack upside just doesn't exist for him. Demario Davis does have sack upside big time. Roquan Smith and Jalen Smith all have big time sack upside. They all have seasons with multiple sacks. Neville Hewitt does have, I believe, 2 on the year, but I'm going to play my big names. And that means Hewitt's going to be sacked this week. Hewitt and Cunningham, just because I don't think he has much sack upside. So, had 2 more questions I was going to answer. These ones came in from the website, idparmy.com. If y'all want to go over there, it's bare bones. There's not a lot going on over there, but you can send me an email, and I will see it. And I'm trying to get to a point in my life where I can respond to those in a timely fashion, and engage with the audience in that manner, We have a lot of time this offseason to do that kind of stuff. But this one comes in from Shauna. You guys all know Shauna. She's usually in on the live stream on Sunday mornings. If you guys or gals are in there, we're very proud to have some women that follow her and are part of the IDP Army. And Shauna's in the semifinals, and hopefully she gets that title. She can rub it in everybody's face, as you should do once you win. But she says, "Hi Jordan, made it to week 15. Can you help me out with my linebackers, please? I need 3." She says she has Shaq Barrett, Jermaine Carter, Al-Shazir Aziz, if Fred Warner is out, BJ Goodson, David Long, Bobby Okereke, and Duke Riley. Says she needs 3. So those 3, I'm for sure locking in Barrett, and I'm for sure locking in BJ Goodson. She also has Harvey Lange, she said, which I don't have written down here. In this situation, given the guys that she has named off here, I'm probably going to go with Harvey Lange as my 3rd. David Long, again, he's kind of just popped up on the scene because of the injury to Jayon Brown. Bobby Okereke, I don't know what the situation is. They do weird stuff with their linebackers in Indianapolis. He could get a lot of snaps or he could get a few. It's a weird thing there, so I don't feel super safe. So I do know that Lange and Long should see the field. But I'm going to go Lange just because he's on the worst team. He's on the Jets. So I'm going to take, as my 3rd linebacker of that group, I'm going to take the snaps. So I'm going to take Shaq Barrett, take BJ Goodson, and I'll take Harvey Lange on that one, Shauna. And then I had one other email question come in. This one came in from Mike K. And he said, "You guys have been killing it for me this year. Need all the help I can get to the ship next week. I need you to pick 2 of these players for my DB flex lineup." He has Jeremy Chin, Jabril Peppers, Blake Martinez, Neville Hewitt, and Olakun. Was interested in your thoughts. Another situation where this is an abundance of riches. I mean, this would be hard to figure out. I told him I haven't responded, but I thought about this a little bit, and my initial thought was Martinez and Olakun. But after, my level of conviction on Jabril Peppers has just been so red hot since the start of the off season, and he's been one of my guys. Like I said, 25 points a game basically over the last since week 7. That's insanity. So I can't fade him even for Olakun, who I also love. So I would go Martinez, and I would go Peppers here, my man. And I know sitting Chin is going to hurt. I know sitting Olakun is going to hurt, but honestly, sitting any of these guys is going to hurt. And some people might say, well, Martinez and Peppers on the same team, they're going to eat into each other's snaps, blah, blah, blah. I opened the show by reading about an NFC East team, the Redskins, who had the number 1 scoring defensive back last week. They had the number 1 scoring defensive line player last week. They're not going to eat into each other's production. If they're going to produce, they're going to produce. The tackles will be available. The plays will be available. If you're a playmaker, you'll make plays. So that is my final word on that. All right, y'all who have been over here in the chat, let's see what we got. If you are on the U's and the tubes. So Kevin Tao says, "What's up, brother? Good seeing you on." Yeah, happy to be here, bro. Poyer Simmons ain't coming through for me. Oh, yeah, this game was. Yeah, I guess Simmons didn't come through. I got to check my score here in a little bit. All right, we got one from Tyreek Ellis. Love my man Tyreek. He says, "Jordan, Sweat or Alden Smith, John Johnson or Josh Jones?" Like I said earlier, I think Josh Jones is actually probably going to be potentially out because of that shoulder injury. I'm not 100% sure on that. But he has been banged up a couple of times this season and had to leave games and left with like a snap or 2, kind of like Ronnie Harrison has done. So I'd be a little bit scared to play him. I'd probably stick with John Johnson there, Tyreek. And then between Sweat and Alden Smith, I'm going to go Alden or Sweat. You already know that. Come on now. Coming in hot tonight with the takes. Chase is overrated. Whoa. I didn't say Chase is overrated. I said Montez Sweat will never get the credit he deserves. That's what I said. Take it easy over there, killer. All right. Travis Knott says DT start. Jonathan Allen, Eric Armstead, or Wilkins. Like I said, I opened up the show. We know Jonathan Allen left with a groin injury. Groin injuries are not something you want to have. So I would be wary to play him. He doesn't carry an injury designation for this week. I'm looking right now, but I'd still be a little bit concerned. He's going to be up against the Seahawks. They're a little tough, so I might try to get him out of my lineup. But that being said, your options there, Eric Armstead and Christian Wilkins, suck. So I might just stick with Jonathan Allen because he's on the more disruptive defense, the more intact defense, the more established defense, and just hope that, you know, the chaos and havoc that's happening around him leads to a potential big play. All right, Russ got one up. Russ got one for me here. He says, thoughts on Alex Highsmith. I love him. He's going to be a guy I talk about when I do some Dynasty Stash stuff. We know Bud Dupree got hurt. We know he put on a tag. You know, Steelers, TJ Watt's going to get some money, but they're going to need somebody else. Some of those guys on the interior are aging out a little bit. Highsmith, you know, who's like a third-round pick. He had a redonkulous number of tackles for loss in his college career, which is one of the things most closely correlated with NFL success from the edge position, from what I understand. So I'm in on Alex Highsmith, DL and linebacker eligible on Sleeper. Cheap. I mean, he's probably on your Dynasty waiver wire right now. So like I said, I'm going to be doing some stuff on Dynasty Nerds, doing some stash stuff, doing stash articles and whatever else, you know, to start the season off. So, yeah. All right, IDP Army. That's all the questions I had over here. I appreciate y'all. It's week 15. Tomorrow morning, if you're listening to this somewhere, somehow, Steve and I will be on IDP Army live stream, week 15, doing kind of what I did tonight, answering start-sit questions, helping you all figure out what you're going to do. And then we all get to tilt all day tomorrow. And in 2 short weeks, this is all over. It's really, really kind of sad to think about. But Steve and I will be keeping the content rolling up here. Content will be coming out on Dynasty Nerds. You guys already know, go hang out at the Destination Devi. You know, head over their Patreon, join their Discord. They have a great IDP community over there that I'm a big part of. The one that's on Fantasy Football Chat that's on Discord, they have a good IDP community. You should be part of that. Obviously, follow us on Twitter. You know, at IDP Army on Twitter, at IDP Army on Instagram. I suck at Instagram, but follow it anyway. Sometimes I put stuff on there. I'm going to try to start streaming some of this stuff on there. If anybody's good at that or has any tips on that, I would love to be a little bit more well-versed in that stuff. So, all right, I'm rambling now. So, good luck, IDP Army. Go kick some ass this week. Tell them who sent you. I'll be back next week, and then we will be, hopefully we'll all be holding up some belts and some titles. So, see ya.